ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Skippy Lowe Looks at Hollywood. Today's guests are Jay North, the now grown-up Dennis the Menace, and the world's foremost psychic, the one and only Mr. Peter Herkos. And now here he is, the man of the half hour, Skip E. Lowe.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Looking at Hollywood. Today we have a very interesting and a very different show. We have a gentleman that you have seen on television. Well, you'll remember when you were a kid. Well, here he is. Now he's all grown up. Dennis the Menace, Jay North. How are you, Jay?
Fine, I'm still a menace.
Are you still a menace?
Sure am.
Tell me about yourself. How did all that happen, Dennis the Menace?
Well, they screen tested 500 kids for the role of Dennis the Menace. It was a very popular comic strip in the early and late 50s, and Screen Gems and CBS decided, well, let's make a television series out of it. So I screen tested for the role along with 500 other kids, and it was a process of elimination. And Hank Ketchum, who was the creator of the comic strip, personally selected me.
But you did a movie first before you...
Oh, yes, I had worked 2 years before Dennis the Menace. I'd done a couple of features, one with Mickey Rooney called The Big Operator.
Right.
And I did a feature with Rex Reason called Miracle of the Hills, and worked on TV shows like 77 Sunset Strip, Wanted Dead or Alive. So I was a veteran before Dennis came along.
Right. So that's how you got... But they saw you on Big Operation, I think.
The Big Operator. Well, they saw the film, and they said, well, you know, this kid, he looks pretty interesting. Let's give him a test. But you know, it's funny. The first time I went in to read for the role of Dennis the Menace, I gave a terrible reading, and they said, get this kid out of here, we don't want him. So a couple of weeks later, my uncle took me back into the Screen Gems office, got a hold of one of the scripts and said, let me work with Jay a little bit. So I gave a good reading the second time, and made the screen test, and we were on our way from 59 to 63.
Sometimes that happens when you give a bad reading.
Oh, yeah, you give a very bad reading.
Casting agents don't realize that.
Yeah, first time, a very bad reading, and fortunately I was able to get in the second time, and we were on our way for 4 years.
4 years.
Then I worked pretty steadily through my teen years. I did a feature film in India called Maya, which later became a television series.
I interviewed Susan Strasberg. She was on that, wasn't she?
No, Susan, no.
Susan wasn't?
No, she was not in
Myra. Who did Myra? Susan was never in Myra?
No, she was not in Maya.
Oh, okay.
No.
Good.
No.
Okay. Good. Correct me. Okay. What year was that in, Jay?
That was in, we made the feature film in 65 and the series in 67.
Who was in the film?
A young Indian actor by the name of Sajid Khan. There were just, well, actually 3 cast members if you want to count the elephant.
That was in
the pachyderm.
Yeah,
we shot that entirely on location in India. We lasted, we didn't even make it through a season. And then, you know, after I came back, the years have been kind of, you know, really rough for me because of the identification with the Dennis the Menace character, and it's been real tough for me to reestablish myself. Yeah, so I've reached the point of where I kind of, you know, I like to bury it as much as I can, but of course, you know,
the name. But they are going to remake it, I understand, on TV.
Well, they are talking about doing a reunion show with the original cast, and it's just right now in the talking stages.
Why do you want it to bury?
Well, you know, I'm trying to do other things, and I think the identification with the nice, sweet, innocent little kid, and then, you know, they think, well, he's still a nice, sweet, innocent kid. He just is bigger now. And that's one of the reasons why I have a project that I'm trying to get off the ground about a young mass murderer in Indiana by the name of Stephen Judy. And he committed a horrible series of murders back there.
And
I would like to play him.
You're into crime.
Yes, I am. I would like to play him, and that would be a good transition for me. So, but yes, I'm very much into study criminology at Valley College out here, and I've always been a real crime buff. I've always read all of the J. Robert Nash books on bloodletters and bad men, and all of the criminology books, and of course working with Peter Herkos. I've had the chance to work with him on a number of cases, and it's fascinating to watch this man as he picks up the vibrations with objects from the home, objects from the victim, objects from the defendant, and everything else. And it's fascinating to watch this man work. And of course, I was a big fan of Peter's for many years, even before I met him. I met him through his wife Stephanie, who's my personal manager. But I followed, Peter's cases for many years. And of course, the case that he really broke big was the Albert DeSalvo Boston Strangler case.
The Strangler.
Boston Strangler. So I
tell me something about yourself. Are you married?
No, I'm divorced.
You are?
I had a a shot at marriage about 10 years ago, and I don't think I'm going to repeat it. But anyway,
you seem happy.
Well, I think I'm pretty well adjusted for, a lot of kid actors. You hear horror stories of how they grow up and they commit suicide, or they're just, their lives are messed up and everything. But I think I've come through that period really well. Of course, there are times when I get down and I think, well, gee, this is depressing. I wish I'd never been a kid actor, so now maybe I could have a shot at being an adult actor. But I think I've pretty well, resolved all the negative attitudes that I've had, toward that experience.
Seem like
so.
Very nice, Jay. Very good. I'm very happy. And are you seeing a young lady right now? I'm getting a little personal.
Well, not right at the moment. I was dating a young lady, but she was a Mormon.
You're going to school, aren't you?
Right now, I'm going to Valley College.
Valley College, and you're studying
criminology.
Criminology.
Right. I want that.
Into that.
Well, as I say, I've always been fascinated by it. It's always fascinated me, crime and criminology.
Criminology,
I'd kind of like to have that as a backup, because if the few things that I'm trying to do as an actor don't work out, then I'll just go into the criminology area full time and devote, my time to it.
But you didn't have a real tough time as a child actor, though, in Hollywood, did you?
No, not really a tough time. I think the only thing was my schooling suffered a little bit, because when you're on the set there, people don't realize the pressure on a kid. Number one, you've got to retain all the dialogue. You've got to remember all the dialogue and keep it in your head. You go to school for 20 minutes while they're setting up a shot. You're right in the middle of schoolwork. They call you, to do the scene. You do the master's, a close-up, two-shot, everything else. Then they say, okay, go back to school. And it's like a game of ping-pong all day. And you really just don't have the opportunity to just focus on your schoolwork entirely, because there are constant interruptions. Either that or they were pulling me out of the dressing room to do press interviews and people, meeting people and everything. So that was tough.
When your show was on the air, I was in Europe a lot. I worked in Europe a lot, and I used to see your shows. Every once in a while when I used to fly back into New York. And Dennis The Menace, that was in the 60s, wasn't it? Or
yes, 59 to 63.
Those are the years I lived in Europe.
Yeah, right.
I was away from America for like 15 years.
And they just...
they were very big here, too, weren't they?
They were big. It was a very popular show. It was a very... I think Dennis The Menace, a lot of those shows, Beaver, Father Knows Best.
Have they been shown in Australia and England and all that?
They've been shown all over.
All over the world.
But they were done at a very simple time of innocence before everything, the whole world kind of exploded into chaos. So people are very nostalgic about, they enjoy those shows, because it takes them back to a simpler time. It puts them in a time machine and takes them back, and they can laugh, enjoy. No sexual message, no political message, nothing like the sitcoms of today.
True.
They're light years apart.
Yes. But before we sign off, Jay North, for young people out there, you were a child actor here in Hollywood. You grew up here in Hollywood. What would you advise the young actors out there when they come to Hollywood, how to prepare themselves real quick?
Well, I don't think that you should have any illusions about the business. It's a tough business. I think you should learn your craft. I think that you should have a lot of experience on the stage even before you come out here.
Right.
The stage experience is really very, very important. I wish I could have gotten that stage experience earlier on instead of being in television my whole life. But it's a tough business, and you have to be realistic about it and just keep a level head.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.